Hello, it's Elaina Strongbow from SodaTutorials.com, Elena's main game name, and today I'm actually in game as Eleanor, who is my alternate character, a younger character, and I just want to touch on the combat system, the deck system that's in Shroud of the Avatar. There are always questions about it. There are some people that like it a lot. There's people that like different aspects of it. There's people that don't, and the unfamiliarity with it. It's a little bit different than I think a lot of the games out there, and part of it is it blends a bit of randomness or strategy to it, almost like a card game, like Magic the Gathering or something in there, where you build out a deck of possibilities, and then you're a little bit at chances and to get the right combination of cards used at the time. So first thing I want to talk about is what's not your combat deck, your combat stuff. It's your utility bar. It's a static bar that's always there. You can hear I've got a heal spell, I've got a teleport, I've got a recall, caltrops, throw out some caltrops, night vision, the regular light that's on here. But when you go into combat, a second bar is going to come up, and that's governed by what deck you have enabled. I'm going to put up there something. I'm going to start talking about one of the decks I have, and this is basically a locked deck. And if I talk about this, basically what I mean by a locked deck is that you can actually build a deck, and this is actually the deck itself, and lock every card. So when I bring up this deck and I go into combat, I'm always going to see these cards, regardless. Now out there, if I look at this, this is my push spell, or push with my pole arm. This is pull. This is puncture. This is spinning attack. This is a defensive, a deflect, dodge, reckless stance. I think this one's parry. I got some healing stuff. So if I were to go into combat mode right now, that's what I'm going to see. And if you want to use one of those spells, you can click on it, or you can press the number associated with it. So I can press number 1. Now you notice something here. When I did that, there's a little red marker, kind of a timer going off. So I've used part of this. You can think I have so much of this I can use. And until when that red piece is gone, I'm at full capacity. But I could do it once, do it again, you do it a third time, a fourth time, a fifth time. But I can't go until it whitens up like there. Now there's a trick here. So it sounds like, okay, I just have a lot of times I can use it. Do that. Every time you use these cards, you use an ability. It costs focus. Especially like up here. If you notice, my focus says 107 out of 180. If I use something for the first time, it only takes 8 focus. But every time I use it a little bit more, now it's 13 focus, 20 focus, 20 here, 31. So yes, it's locked, and yes, you can use it a bunch of times, but it costs more and more to use it if you start extending into it. And that may be what you want, maybe not. If you're a newer character, if you look at my my focus, I've already drained down. I used it about 6 times, and my focus is down. If I'm down to no focus, then I really can't use it. So that's the benefit is you can lock. If there's something you want to know, you always want to have there, you can lock it in. The downside is the more you use it, if you use it a lot, you can blow through your focus. So that's the pro and the con of a locked card. All these cards are locked, so they all have that. So they will use it once, and then I can use it again. Another thing about it is how many times you can use it is actually really dependent upon, let me get out of combat mode here, how many of these spells you have. So let's look at push. I look down in here and find push. Here it is. I'm at level 41. It says it kind of right there on this thing. So I've level 41 of this. At level 41, I've opened up 4 times. So at level 10, 20, 30, and 40, I've opened up 4 of these cards of push. That means I can have 4 in use at any time. So that's how it governs how many you can use in that circle. When you get to level 80 is the next big push, where you get your 5th card. And the 5th is 5 is the most you can have on it. So that's how a lock deck works. And there are points where you want to use it. So as an archer, not in this character, I have disabling shot. Shoots them, slows them down. That's basically what it does. Now if I'm working and by myself and I've got a bunch of people on me, enemies on me, I want to slow them down so they can't come and hit me, and I can kite around them and do that. So I have that locked on my deck, and I have it locked on there for a reason for it. So I mean, there are instances. Can you have a completely locked deck? Sure, go ahead. But you're going to get to the point you're going to have more spells than you have spots, and you're going to you're never going to be able to start fighting some of the harder ones because you're going to be running out of focus on that. So that's a lock deck, and that's the basics. So let's start with that. So you can make that. That's kind of like what the old school games or not old school, older games, or other games have. So now let's change it up just a little bit. I'm going to talk about a blank deck. I'm going to equip this, and I'm going to show you what it looks like first before I bring it out. So I've got some locked cards on here, like what we had before at all these, but I left these blank. And it says any glyphs. So all the cards I have over here can randomly come up in these spots. Literally it is some random thing pulling cards out of there, pulling them into the spots, and they can do that. It's a little bit more dynamic. You can get different combinations, but more importantly, they cost less to actually cast. So I'm going to bring that up, kind of show that here. So let me get out of here. And get out of here. And bring this up. So here they start popping up. So these are the 4 that I could use. Now this one's a great one. I want to ignite my weapon. Set my weapon on fire. So however I use it after this, I can hit them with a flaming thing. And now it's been replaced with a different card. So this one costs 7. This other one still costs 7. They all cost that base amount. They don't cost you any more to use. So if it was 7 focus to cast it, it will always be 7, no matter how many times it pops up. You're at the whim of the deck. So I could cast this. I'm gonna wait for one to pop up. Now see, this one's dropping out. If you wait long enough, it will be replaced with another card. Could be the same one, could be another one. So keep shuffling them on there. This one is a lot. So definitely the pro of it is that you get a lot better use of your focus. So hats off to that. Here's the hard part. Sometimes you want a certain card up, and you've got to pepper your deck with enough of the right cards. You see it, and that's what really starts getting, like I said, like Magic the Gathering or Pokemon or trading card games. The right deck with the right amount. You want the right odds of something showing up. So that's pretty cool. I mean, it's something that if something rolls off, something will be replaced. It makes it a little bit more dynamic. So these ones I said, well, I want to keep these on there, but this I want to be rotating through. And I can have a complement of different spells out there. I don't have to have just 4. I could have 10 different spells that are or uses or different weapon skills over there. And then it would, those would, out of those 10, 4 at a time would be coming up. So that's how that works. So that's kind of, I call it a blank deck. That's really blanks in there, and you kind of get that rotating kind of effect on there. Personally, I've not been into using a blank deck. I understand it, I see it, I just never understood it, and I was watching it, oh, that's what it means really blanks. I finally had figured that out, which is pretty cool. Oops, not my deeds. So that was the whole thing about the blank deck. So you put cards over here. If you have any spots that are blank, those will randomly fill up in here. Now also, there's a number here. Depending on your adventure level, the higher you get in adventuring, the more glyphs you can have. So Eleanor's not that new. Or is new, so she only has 17. That number will grow up. If you don't put in all 17, let's pull this one out. Let me remove this one. So I got 16 plus 1 slug. I'm going to make this a little bit even more obvious. So what is a slug? Bring up my random deck. There's a slug. Does nothing. Slug is literally a dead spot. So that, depending on your adventure level, and as you go up, you want to have at least the number of cards that you can support. So mine says 17. I want to have at least 17 cards. If I don't, and I have less than that, I can get slugs in my thing. Slugs are dead spots. You can't do anything with them. And literally it's just a dead spot. Now I have 1. So that number is important when you're making a blank deck. You want to make sure you have enough cards over on the right side so you don't get any slugs. And you'll see it on this big red. You've got slugs. So I want to put more cards over here to do that. I'll put some other cards on here. Strength Diverse, Stone Fist. These aren't anything I'm doing. So I got 3 slugs left. So let's put Purify and Glancing Blow. Night Vision. Sure. Doesn't make any sense. Who cares what the cards are? You want to make sure that this has no slugs in there. Else you get those in your deck on there. So that's a blank deck. I'm going to talk about a stack deck. It's a different way to actually do that. It's kind of like a mix between the blank and the lock deck. I'm going to equip that one and modify it here and show it. So what I've got is I still have some lock cards over here. These are set in stone. Those will be there. I've got a couple in here that are actually free-formed on here, which is fine. And then I've got these. On unlocked spots, you can actually put a card or multiple cards. And what that does is it makes it so only the cards that are in here, still governed by this, only the cards that I've listed here can come up in this spot. So there's no way that if I've got these blue ones that are, they will ever appear in here. They only come into places where I've put it or places that have blank spots. So this one, I look at it, I've got push, I've got pull, and I've got puncture. So whatever pops in there is still going to be one of these three cards, but only one of those three cards. It's not as random, so it's kind of like it's right in between the lock deck and the blank deck. It's the stack deck. Now this is what I typically use on mine. There are certain spells I want to have or certain skills I want to have in certain spots. I put them in there and I work with a finite set that's on there. Probably going to grow out of it and probably move more toward a blank. That's probably going to happen. But it's the comfortable. I've gotten really comfortable with that. And that's how I base my deck. So literally I'll have like 2 lock cards here. I'll have some random stacks that are in here. And then my bread and butter like heals and stuff that are over here. So if I look at that from, and this is going to look kind of goofy just the way I set it up, but I come in here. So these still are going to fill in. It may take a little time for them to come in. Now see, this one only had 1 card, but it still has to appear. And right now it hasn't appeared on there, which is fine. It's going to take some time to do that. You got to tweak your decks to get what you want. There it is. This one's going to go away, and what's going to come back is probably just that one. So this is just basically a stack deck. A stack deck. So I've set the cards. Now I wish I could pause it here. I'm going to do something here. I'm going to take this stack card. I'm going to drag it over here. You notice the number 2 here. Now I'm going to put this one over here. You notice the number 2. This is actually called stacking cards. It basically makes a more powerful version. You could take 2 of the same cards and stack them on. If you got 3 or 4 that come up, you can stack up 4 or 5 on there. Basically so casting this will do still a pull, but it will be a stronger version of it, and it doesn't require as much focus. So here's puncture. So I'm going to put puncture right here. Ta-da! I'm going to put this guy on here. There's a pull that came up. Let's see if we get another one up here. That's blade. So I'm going to cast this one. So it casted just like the other ones, but it's just that it's going to be doing more damage than it, and it's going to cost less to put out there. So you can do it with your cards. If you're using your mouse, you can use the keys on there. If you're using your mouse, you can literally drag one onto the other. If you want to use, like, here's a 3rd one, so I could put that on there. That's a 3 stack of that. Here's a 2 stack of this. I may get a 4th one on here, maybe. I don't know how many of these punctures I've got. Alright, so we put this one here. So these are all stacked, 2, 3, and then 2. Here's the 3 stack on this one. Here's my whirling. So I can cast them off. Now this one, it's only going to cost me 4 on that one. But it's kind of like a power hit. So stacking cards allow you to do a power hit. Now, you can't do that with a lock deck. You have to do that with either blank or a stack deck, where you can take cards and drag them onto each other on there, on the ones you have kind of free floating on here. It's a more effective way to combo together a bunch of cards and do a more powerful hit and not use as much focus. You can also use the R key. You can hold down the R key and I hit 1, and that kind of goes red. And then I can hit 2, and it moves it over there. Hold down the R, you hit the first card number. Hold down, you then let go, and then hit the second card number. Let's see if I can get that again. I'll cast this out. So I'm going to hit R1. That's gone red. And now I'm going to hit the number 3 key to put it here. So you can do it by the keyboard or with the mouse, dragging and dropping out, depending on how you play. So let's review that again. Make sure we got that. So get out of combat here. So a completely locked deck is where all the cards are set. Good thing is you always know what you're going to get. Bad thing is that because you can use them a couple of times depending on your level with them, but it's going to cost more and more focus to get. You're going to grow out of that really quick. Now, from that you can go to what we call a pure blank deck or blank spots. What you've got is Here I've got locked ones. I could have stacked ones in here, but I've got locked ones here. And I've got blanks. These blanks will be filled by any one of the ones that are over here. Make sure your glyphs, you have enough cards over here so you don't get slugs. But this is pretty much random choice. Things are coming up, they'll go on there and appear as they are. If you're not getting the cards you want, you may want to change how many cards are in here. Take some out, put some other ones in, or go to a locked one or whatnot. So you can tune that as you go along. So locked, blank, and then we've got stacked. Stacked is where instead of having a blank, we put them in here. Now with the blanks and the stacks, you can combo the card. You can stack the cards. You can take one of the same card and put it on the other and make a more powerful one. You can do it for as many cards as you've got. So typically it's 3 to 4 cards on someone's on there. Okay, one other thing. So in stacking a card, I could take a puncture and stick it on top of puncture and get 2. That's great. That's pretty much. There's also a thing called combinations or combos. I don't have any combos on this new one, so I'm going to show the combo editor. So I'm going to show glyphs. All right. So I'm in the glyphs. I'm looking at the combos. These are all options that you can take 2 cards. So you could take. Let me take one I've got probably. I know I've got. Here's one. I could take thrust. Drop it if fire. Flaming fist is up. I could drop it onto that, and I'll get smoldering shiv. Now this is a burning blade attack with a long, slow decay over time effect. So basically, what it does is it's going to attack, it's going to hit, then it's going to do 1 to 3 fire damage every 4 seconds for a minute. So instead of just a hit where I'm doing a puncture or thrust and I'm just doing a damage or flame, I set you on fire, it puts them together and creates this where it does damage over time for a minute every 4 seconds. So 15 times it'll hit that enemy for 1 to 3 damage each time, which is great. So if you drag one card to the same card on the other, you'll get like a more powerful version of that card. If you have a combo available, you'll want to set up your deck to actually hit some of those combos. Here's one I've unlocked in my other character where I could take a flaming arrow, combine it with flaming arrow, set them on fire so it does some fire damage. Death ray is going to do one. It's actually one of the death magic skills, so it's going to do a death damage on it. And if I do it together, it's going to do a ranged fire attack with fire damage over time that also drains life. Draining life in addition to doing fire damage. It's a great combination on that. So yeah, so in a blank or a stacked deck, you can drag the same card on top of each other and make a powerful card. But if you have these combos, you can combo them together. And like when I see in my deck, if I see this card come up and this card come up, I will combo those, so like dragging one onto the other or using the R key, and then you'll see the icon change to this, and then I can cast it off. So it's even another more advanced way to make this deck. It's one of the advantages of not using a locked deck. You get that flexibility to do it. This is confusing for, I said, when you first start out, you kind of just give me my sword. You want to do this. And then you quickly find out you're getting skills like thrust or parry or puncture and stuff. Those do more damage than just your sword hit. Your sword hit. So or for a bow, the difference between shooting an arrow or shooting disabling shot, which will slow down an enemy, or piercing shot, which does a bigger amount of damage and stuff. So you want your deck is something you have to grow with in the beginning. Learn how to work with your just pure lock deck. Get your cards out there. Raise your skills. As your skills come up, you're going to want to start branching into more of a blank deck or a stacked deck, and start adding some variety in there, so you start getting those coming up. Especially if you start putting, if you're an archer and you put in some fire magic, you want to kind of blend between the two. We do this a lot with creating different kinds of decks. If you look at this right now, I have, and I just did this for the video, I made these 3 decks. But you can create different decks for different situations. The undead is a great situation. The undead suck because they're painful, but they're really, you can damage them a lot with fire. So I will take my normal archery deck, I'll copy it, and literally I'll come in and just pretend this is my deck here. I literally will copy it, come in and modify it, and I'll say, okay, this is now my flaming archery deck. And what I will do is I'll take some of the cards out and put more fire focus spells in there. So this deck is more effective against the undead. I have a troll. We go out and fight trolls. There's different things I like to use against a troll versus the undead. So I will have another deck called Archery Troll deck or whatever else, or PvP deck. So not only you have to worry, we're talking in the context of a deck. How do you set up your deck? You'll eventually you'll get to a point where you'll want to make multiple decks for multiple situations. Depending on what you do, the most common one to start out with is you have your normal deck, call it your bread and butter, and then you'll have like an undead deck or a fire deck, or something that's geared toward doing that. So, is it complicated? Yes. It's very powerful though, and it's a lot of fun once you get to it. Try to sit someone down to play Magic the Gathering first time, and they're kind of like going, they've never played a trading card game. What? What do you mean mana? What's these lands and what's this and why can't I? The exchange back and forth. That whole thing. It's frustrating, annoying, and you kind of get to go, oh yeah, and then you kind of go through it and you start going, okay, I want more of these cards, and you build a strategy. It's the same way in here. It just takes a little bit of time. Now you can ask put questions in the comments. Find me in the game, Elaina Strongbow. That's great. But there are a lot better other people to talk about this. So my suggestion to you is to go on to Twitch and look for Shroud of the Avatar and pick up a couple of people on there. I'm going to put a couple of people that I know. I refer to it kind of saying these are guys that really understand and answer a lot of questions. One you're going to pick up. You're going to see someone like Kiku Starfish or Core. Isn't his name in game? Very, very. He's like at the top point something % of people in game that really understands the mechanics and can talk to you about different choices, what he would do, what not, or explain things. Great guy, super high level, answers anybody's level questions, even does a schooling thing, even in game for that. You'll see one called Oxnull, one of the other guys. Once again, Job Gamers. I'll put the the guys, kind of like the key ones I go to look at that and say, these are guys that really understand it. And if you got questions, they're a great source to ask it. All levels. Beginning questions. I mean, you may be stuck out. You start out, you can't even change your deck. They'll explain how to go unlock your deck so you can do the stuff I'm showing in here. Which trainers. From the very beginning to the very high level. It's fun watching them because you see them do things like soloing dragons and doing this and that. And it's all built upon the decks and the skills that they've done. It's not because they're like a GM and 50 million skills. It really comes down to how effective they are with their deck and how they built it, and they've tuned their decks to be, this is what works against this situation, whether it's fighting another player in PvP, or fighting a specific monster, dragons, whatever. So hope that helps. If you got questions, leave them on here. I will gladly add in additional videos. I have no problem doing that. It's what I do. So put comments on the video, thumbs ups or thumbs down. This is Elaina Strongbow from SodaTutorials.com as Eleanor today. At the end of the video is going to pop up, previous video in the series. Below that's going to be a link to the SodaTutorials.com website, what I've been doing, what I will be up to, picture of me in the fairy wings. If you're finding the content useful, please click on that and subscribe to the channel. It'd be greatly appreciated. And that's it. Thank you. Have a good one.